So that's the word coming in from Tata Motors as well. But let's also welcome in Somin Mandal, Senior Analyst Automotives at Counterpoint Research. Somin, good afternoon and welcome to the show, and a pleasure to speak to you as always. Somin, my first question coming to you is, majority of the managements actually indicated the scarcity that the companies could face in terms of the rare earth magnet in their fourth quarter earnings call as well. But at that point in time, probably not everyone assumed that this would really go on for so long. But taking into consideration the exclusive details, what my colleague Tushar has gotten, that the companies just have stock to probably go ahead for 30 more days, what would this entire scenario actually entail, according to you, for the sector?
Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, as we can see EV adoption accelerating in India, the shortage of rare earth materials poses a serious challenges to the industry, right? So these materials are essential for producing battery cells, battery management system, battery cooling systems, and PMDC motors, and as well as other power electronics components. So as India also scales up local manufacturing of motors and battery cells, so this scarcity could significantly hinder production and slow down country's electrification momentum. But as we can also hear from all the automakers, so automakers started like building up inventory months, I think 3 to 6 months before, and we know in future festive season is coming, so that's why I think Indian automakers currently has enough inventory until festive season. Maybe after festive season or at the end of this year we can see a little bit of impact, but I believe at that point of time Indian government and automakers will find a solution.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mandal. Tushar here, just to step into this conversation. You think Indian automakers have the inventory to last up to the festive season? Because the festive season is very crucial for the Indian auto space at large. What I'm hearing is that they have stock only for the next 30 days, dependent on the curbs that actually first came into effect on the 4th of April. So we know that there was 90 days of stock that was available within Indian automakers, but are you getting the sense that they may have stocked even more so that there will be no pain during at least the festive season?
Yeah, I think so. Normally, automakers started production way before festive season to cope up with increasing demand during festive season. So that's why before production, so I think if automakers start production from June, so that means they have procured components even 2 3 months before. So because they know that what can be the demand for festive season. So that's why I think
we can see from June onwards significantly higher dispatches to dealerships, production numbers.
Yes, yeah. I think yeah, that is the reason you can see also from dealership numbers we can see higher dispatch numbers because yeah, dealers will be piling up inventory because that should not impact on sales at the time of festive season.
But Mr. Mandal, what can be a work around this particular situation? We know that China accounts for 90% of the processing of rare earth magnets globally. But are there any other geographies that India can look at to get the supply of rare earth magnets?
Yeah, we know that China controls nearly 60% of global rare earth material mining and nearly 90% of supply chain of rare earth materials. But if you look at the rarest materials, we know there are 17 rare earth materials, but 7 are rarest earth materials, right? So including few of the materials like dysprosium, gadolinium. So for these minerals, China and Myanmar have very good dominance. Maybe China has nearly more than 95% of dominance in these rarest earth materials. So that's why alternative sources for these minerals outside China remain extremely limited. But yeah, for not only India, all the global automakers and the other regions also look for alternatives. What India can do, I believe Indian OEMs and tier 1 suppliers may step up efforts to diversify sourcing from regions like Australia, Africa, and Myanmar, or develop local rare earth refining capabilities. So we know even like Australia, after procuring rare earth materials, they send it to China for processing. So India can work around those things. If Indian government may also intensify extensions of own rare earth materials reserves, as well as they can invest on processing rare earth materials, right? So that India may not be able to depend only on China for tackle this type of supply chain situation. So we also see we have seen
So,
Europe, so they have also reduced dependency. So similar way India can follow.
So Somin, my question coming to you is, if you have to reduce dependency with regards to rare earth metal, one of the options is you go to alternatives. People are talking about Australia, Brazil, which could be alternatives. Not sure what's the quantum that they have. The second alternative, is there anything where there could be a workaround where companies are looking at manufacturing parts, or I don't know, how would you put it, ancillary, spare parts where rare earth metal may not be used?
Yeah, that can be the other alternatives also automakers are trying. So we know everyone thinks like EVs are reducing pollution. So many environmentalists are raising questions like mining and exploration are raising pollution level, right? So that's why already automakers and governments are putting lots of efforts to find out alternatives for these rare earth materials. Like, yeah, maybe hydrofuel currently where India is focusing, or any other alternative of fuel that will also reduce uh, pollution level and also act as alternative of rare earth material where China has lots of the dominance.
Mr. Mandal, this is the conversation around OEMs that we have seen, the end product, so to speak, that is two-wheeler or four-wheeler. What is the kind of impact that we can see on auto component makers, the local auto component makers? Which companies will be impacted, and which actually these companies we should watch out for in the future as maybe the winners from this, and maybe also the people who will actually also lag in the auto component space?
So yeah, so all the like all types of vehicles will be impacted, including passenger vehicles, commercial two-wheelers and three-wheelers. But I am starting with passenger vehicles, like as you already talked about,
So,
like
I'm so
Tata
sorry to
Motors.
sorry to step in. I meant auto component makers, people who make parts. Are there any companies, auto component makers, that will be impacted by this particular ban?
So obviously, auto components maker will be impacted because what will happen? So this ban is on like rare earth materials, not on the finished goods or products. Maybe China will force the automakers to procure finished components like PMDC motors from China. But we know like all the Indian players, they build. Like for two-wheeler players, they build motors in-house, and also like passenger vehicles players. So that's why components players in this case passenger vehicles player takes help from tier ones or component players. So they may face difficulty because if they don't gain supply of rare earth materials, they would not be able to build permanent magnet motors, and as well as battery cells, what components players as well as Indian government is aiming for.
So essentially, you mean to say that companies that make electric motors in India and companies that make battery management systems in India will be impacted by this. Do you
Yes.
expect these companies to maybe set up sub-assemblies in China? Is that a likelihood? Is that a possibility?
That will be also this will then again the geopolitical situation will come, whether China will allow invest the foreign companies there or not, or whether Indian government will be interested our Indian sub-assembly players to put manufacturing unit there or not. But in the short term, maybe Indian automakers will be forced to buy finished goods from uh, the suppliers or components players in China to cope up with increasing demand. Either we will see decrease in sales and also increase also on vehicle price that will also pass on to the end consumers.
So I think lots to watch out for. Thank you, Somin, so much for joining us on the show and putting that into perspective as well. Thank you, Tushar, as well, to actually get this story to us, because absolutely interesting, which has been developing over the last couple of days. I think 90 days is what we're looking at. We're already passed on 60 days from this period, and I think the way the companies also responded to it in terms of the conference call is not with too much concern. And now suddenly the concern has shot up as well, if you think about it.
It's essentially because you've entered in the last month. So people were expecting. So as I mentioned in my link, that about 30 applications were already made, but not one of them was approved. Yes, Maruti Suzuki has its application still in, but now that you entered the last leg, the last month, some alarm bells have started ringing.
But do you think that the alarm bells have come in late?
I think, yeah, they have. They should have anticipated this bureaucratic round trip that happens in China, the step-by-step, the steps that I mentioned. If they're expecting about 45 days of a process happening only within China, they should have said, okay, only the license will take 45 days. Let's start moving as quickly as possible. And I think perhaps that has not happened, or perhaps there was oversight on the part of the manufacturers.
I think this is going to be interesting. I think, Tushar, the next piece that you should be looking at is to tell all our viewers as to what this rare earth magnet actually looks like.
Yeah.
Where in terms of the auto
Yeah.
component it is used, because that's not something that the street is aware about, right?
No.
A lot of things like this just get discovered suddenly, and that is market moving then.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for joining us and getting us this interesting piece in terms of what the OEMs could be facing from here on. But let's quickly